Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It gives me great pleasure as the president of the Brampton Toastmasters Club to welcome you to our open house. Our club was inducted in 1991, June, with Nortel and then transitioned to Rogers. And we have been president distinguished for the last 4 years. That's the highest achievement for any mercantile or community club. And the mission of our club is we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. Our club is also part of Toastmasters International, which is a network of over 34,000 clubs. And I have with us our area director, who also happened to be a Rogers employee of York Mills. So I'm going to call upon Tracy Harding to speak about Toastmasters International briefly. Tracy?
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to take a few moments to let you know how Rogers Park fits in the Toastmasters International family. We are in Area 34, which consists of 4 clubs. We have Rogers Park, Parpak, Speak to Inspire, and Brampton Speakeasy. And combined, there are over 100 members. After that, we have Division B, which consists of areas 31 to 36. We have 26 clubs with over 700 members. Next, we have District number 86. There are 9 divisions, 236 clubs, and over 2,000 members. The district also has an executive committee, which consists of the district director, club growth manager, finance manager. We have a parliamentarian, public relations manager, and so forth. So this is a big organization, and all of whom are governed by Toastmasters International directly. Toastmasters International has over 14,000 clubs, over 300,000 members spread across 126 countries. And we are just a small piece here, but we are also effective. And some of the benefits of being a Toastmaster is that you get to improve your speaking and leadership skills. And you can do that all within a very supportive and encouraging environment, as in Rogers Park Toastmasters. Every day we have to deal with people, different situations, and Toastmasters helps us to gather our thoughts, to deliver effective presentations, and to get rid of those nasty and ahs, which we hear very frequently no matter what level a person is in the organization. This program works, as you can see by the number of members through Toastmasters International. I highly encourage you to visit the Rogers Park Toastmasters. Not only will you grow professionally, personally, but you will find there will be a lot of avenues that will be opened up to you because of your confidence in your speaking and your leadership skills. Toastmaster International is definitely where leaders are made. Madam President.
Thank you, Tracy. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, John Rivero, who is also manager of our service desk. So if you have an IT problem, you know who to call. John's journey with Toastmasters started in December of 2007, where he served as the club sergeant at arms. Then he was also vice president of membership, vice president of public relations, and he was also past president. He continued his journey to serve in the district, and he was the area governor for the Area 41. In addition to being a dedicated Toastmaster, he is also a certified speaking coach, where he helps people make good speeches great. Today, he will continue to share his passion for communication and leadership and bring it back to our Toastmasters Club as our open house keynote speaker. Today, he'll be sharing his story and the process that he followed to bring him up to where he is today. Please help me welcome John Ribeiro.
Hello? Perfect. Now imagine this, it's 2004, and you're in a room downtown at the OMP campus. You walk into a little room, and you're waiting to be interviewed by your manager. Your manager sits across from you, and she starts to question you. Kind of almost like an interrogation, but she's questioning you because she wants to see if you're a good fit for the role. The role I'm applying for is team leader. At the time, I'm a senior analyst, and I want to grow inside the organization. And she starts to ask the questions. And in my head, I think I'm responding fairly well. Usually that's the case, right? When you're being interviewed, it's all in your head. We go through a series of questions, and I'm thinking, you know what? This should be a shoo-in. I should have no problem getting this job. I've been in the role for 3 years, and I know how the department works. And I know my fellow coworkers, so why shouldn't I get this job? We wrap up the interview and I leave. 2 weeks later, I get feedback on my interview. And it wasn't quite the response I was looking for. She looked at me and she said, well, your interview went well. That's like a caution sign, isn't it? It went well. She said, you know, when you spoke, you weren't communicating clearly. There were certain things that just weren't coming out just right. And through our questioning, we didn't feel like you were ready. There were certain leadership characteristics that we're looking for, and unfortunately, at this time, you just don't have those characteristics. Heartbroken. I should have been a shoo-in, right? It's 2004. What am I going to do? So let's fast forward a little bit, and it's now 2015. I am the manager of the service desk. Actually, I took over the role of my manager. Well, she's no longer here, but I am now the manager of the service desk. Anybody had a good experience with the help desk recently? Yeah, today. Are we happy that we brought them back? Yes. Perfect. So I'm very fortunate to be part of that team. And how do I make that transition from 2004 to today? And that's what I'm going to reveal to you today. I'm going to talk about my story, and it's actually a story that anybody in this room can follow. You just have to put in a little bit of work. You have to follow the program. We talk about wanting to know what to do to get to a particular spot in life. Well, this is exactly what our Toastmasters program is all about. It's getting you to the next step. And the beauty is, the Toastmasters Club is your playground. It's where you get to practice. You know, so inside the organization, we take courses. Has anybody taken any sort of management courses recently? Okay, nobody. I know there was a course. So has anybody ever taken a management course in the past? Perfect. Okay, good. So the one thing you learn in the courses is the theory on how to do things. You learn about, you know, if you do this and this is how you can effectively manage a team. If you do this, you can inspire a team, you can motivate a team. The problem I had in 2004, my manager talked about leadership and how I was lacking leadership characteristics. Well, I didn't have a team, so how do you learn how to lead without a team? It's kind of a conundrum, right? Like you're stuck. So you want to grow, you want to become an effective leader, but you don't have a team to lead. So this is where the Toastmasters program really helps out. So I'm going to get into that. So before I go into that, within the Toastmasters organization, there's two streams. The first stream is communication, and the second stream is leadership. And within each of those streams, you have projects that you work on. And for now, I'm going to talk about the Competent Communicator Manual, which is part of the first stream. There's actually 4 major projects that you work on. Your CC, or your Competent Communicator one, is your very first manual. And there's 10 projects, and then you have your Advanced Leader Bronze, Advanced Leader Silver, and then you work up to the really fancy title of DTM, which is Distinguished Toastmaster. And it's neat. So I impressed myself this year, because a Distinguished Toastmaster Out of all the Toastmasters, 300,000 worldwide, 1% ever become a DTM. And I say that not because I'm special. I say that because anybody in this room could do that. It just takes the work, and it just takes following the process. I know Mahisa mentioned that my journey started in 2007, which is kind of true, because I did join our club here in 2007. But my journey started when I was 19 years old. I'd finished reading How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Anybody read that book? Fantastic. If you read it, you'll actually see he talks about Toastmasters inside the book. So I ventured off, I read in the book, and it talked about Toastmasters, and I'm going to go check it out. This is before the internet. So you actually had to go through the newspapers and the yellow pages to find a club that was close to you. So I show up, the meeting's in a Xerox building, and it's the Xerox Toastmasters Club. I walk in, and everybody looks at you very welcoming. Actually, it's Toastmasters in general. Everybody's really welcoming. They want you to feel warm. They want you to feel like you're in the right place. This is the place for you to learn. So I walk in the room, and I sit down, and I don't speak to anybody. I was terrified. So they have something called table topics inside of a meeting, and it's where you get to practice your impromptu speaking. They asked me if I wanted to speak. I actually didn't even say no. I just shook my head and said no. That's how terrified I was. And I left that meeting feeling like this wasn't right for me. I'm 19, I'm not ready. You know, you're not ready. You know that feeling? So it's 11 years later. We're moving into Brampton from downtown. And Mandy Puskas. Does anybody remember Mandy? You remember Mandy. So Mandy was a really sweet person. She said, you know what, we're taking over the Nortel Toastmasters Club here in Brampton, and we're wondering if you'd be interested in joining us. I said, sure. You know what, let's go try it out. I'm going to be a guest just like you guys are today. I'm going to be a guest in the meeting. I'm going to see how it goes. When I got to my very first meeting, same thing. I sat there in the corner, quiet. I didn't talk to anybody. But Mandy was pretty convincing. Sometimes, you know, people show up and they push you in the right direction. They just give you that little kick that you need to move forward. Well, this was Mandy, right? So Mandy's like, you know what? You need to do this. Do you want to grow in your career? Yes, I do want to grow in my career. Well, you know, you need to communicate fairly well if you want to grow in your career. You need to have leadership skills. Toastmasters can help you with that. I said, perfect. Okay, Mandy, I'll sign up for the course. And we're about 6 months, almost 8 months into the program. I hadn't volunteered for any roles, and I hadn't done any speeches. And she said, now it's time for you to do your very first speech. And the very first speech in the manual is called the icebreaker. And what the icebreaker is just talking about yourself. Fairly easy, no? We do it all the time, no? We talk about ourselves. We go to a party, we introduce ourselves to friends, we talk about ourselves. So I get to the front of the room, and I have my sheet in hand, and I'm reading it. Hi, everybody. My name is John Ribeiro. You forget your name when you're so nervous. And I am now a team lead with the Rogers organization, and I read my whole speech. For 4 minutes, I read my whole speech. And you know what happens in a Toastmaster meeting, which doesn't happen in a lot of other meetings? Everybody claps for you. Actually, just everybody with me. Oh. How can you feel bad after everybody claps for you after such a bad job? You can't, right? So Mandy, being the inspiration that she was, she motivated me to move on to my very next speech. And then on to my next speech. So, and every speech inside the Toastmaster manual builds on the speech before it. So you start off with your icebreaker here, and then you move into actually structuring your speech. Now, how many times have we gone to a meeting where we wish there was structure? It'd be nice to sit through a meeting where we understand what the person's talking about. So the third project in the manual is about getting to the point. The fourth one, you start working with gestures. You start working with vocal variety. Actually, number 4 is vocal variety. You move into gestures, and then you move into PowerPoint. or you move into visual aids. And actually, visual aids, my opinion is a lot of people need help with how they use visual aids. Because usually when I go to a presentation where they have a visual aids, this is what I see. Does anybody see that too? That's great. I want to read off the screen for you. So through the program, what I've actually learned is how to use the rule of 10, 20, 30. And it's using no more than 10 slides for every 20 minutes with a 30-point font. Have you ever used a 30-point font on a slide? It's like this big, which means you can only put half a dozen words. So when you get to your 9th speech, you have to start working on how to persuade people. And that's what we do every day when we go to a meeting. Every time we're here and we do our jobs, it's about persuading people to take action on something. It's persuading people to say, you know what, this project makes sense, let's move forward with it. And I wish there were more people inside the organization that had, not that it's bad, but just a little bit more structure to get you to the point where they could persuade you more easily. And instead of doing it through 20 meetings, they're doing it through 2. And the organization is all about getting better. The organization is all about delivering. Finally, in the manual, the very last speech is about inspiring. Inspiring people to take some sort of action. And the beauty is, the program just doesn't apply to people internally at work. It could be outside of work. Does anybody have kids? All right, good. Does anybody have kids that play on a team that does any sort of fundraising? They play hockey, right? No. Martial arts. Martial arts, okay. So those fundraisers, they need people, right? They need people to fundraise the money. They need people to organize the event. They need people to motivate other people to give money after they've dished out all this money for martial arts, right? So this program doesn't only apply here, it also applies outside of work. Now imagine being involved in your community, and you're the leader inside that community, and you're able to talk effectively to those people. Your church needs to do some sort of fundraiser, your community group needs to do some sort of fundraising for a tragic event that just happened. And you could be that person. You could be that person that gets up in front of everybody and says, look, we need to get together and we need to move forward with this. This is what the value of Toastmasters does. And this is the value of what our club does internally here. And it's amazing if you just get into the program. Within your Competent Communicator manual, there's 2 parts of public speaking, or 2 parts of speaking. One is actually delivering the speech. And then the other part is the evaluation part of the speech. For me personally, the best part of it is evaluating people. I actually love it. That's part of the reason why I've become a certified speaking coach, is because I wanted to understand the art of providing constructive feedback that actually moves people forward. It's kind of like your performance review at the end of the year without it really being tied to anything. It's more about personal development and moving you forward. And if you really want to move forward, and when you evaluate people and you give them feedback on their speeches, you start to look at where your problem points are. And you can notice it a little bit easier inside of yourself. Hey, I need to do this, or I don't do this very well. So I'm going to provide the feedback, and you have to be constructive. You have to be nice. We're not there to beat up on each other, because we're still going to clap for each other, even if the speech isn't very strong or very good, right? And we even clap for the evaluators. Is that actually really nice? Good, you've given us some great feedback. We'll clap for you. Actually, it's customary inside of all Toastmasters meetings to clap pretty much for everything. Somebody stands up, you clap. They sit down, you clap. It's awesome. I wish all of our meetings were like that. It would be great. It would be great. So imagine somebody makes a proposal at a meeting. Hey, you know what? Oh, that's fantastic. Everybody clap. Yeah. Make our meetings a lot more fun. So the second part inside of the Toastmasters program is the leadership path. And inside the leadership path, and I'm actually going to read this out for you. It's similar to what the organization offers in terms of the management training, but check this out. So there's 10 projects within the leadership path. And the first one is listening. The second one is about critical thinking and then giving feedback. And then time management. We talk about planning and implementation. we're doing organization and delegation. Actually, when I first got into leadership and management, I thought it was all about delegating out stuff to people, because that's how you get things done, right? It's not quite how it works. And actually, I'm going to share a story how when I became area manager or area governor, my biggest challenge was walking into a room full of people I didn't know, getting them to do stuff for me. It's like a PM walking into a room full of architects and developers and saying, hey, we need to do this. This is what I've been mandated by the company to do. And everybody at the table just looks at you and says, I'm busy. You know? You get that feeling? Anybody know what that's like? Yeah. So we can teach you how to effectively delegate. So once we do planning and implementation, organization and delegation, talk about facilitation. And a lot of times in a lot of meetings, somebody's not facilitating and the meeting goes totally off the rails. You know what that's like? So you're the person who steps in and says, hey, you know what, let's organize this, let's put some structure to it, let's get an agenda. And every week, as part of our Toastmasters program, we have an agenda that we follow. And the feedback we get very often from people who come for the very first time is, wow, that was really structured. You guys fit a lot into 1 hour. And we do. We cover speeches, we cover our mission statement, we cover table topics, which is impromptu speaking, which is actually really fun. It's about thinking on your feet. And sometimes people say stuff that's funny, so everybody laughs. And of course, everybody claps. And every meeting and every meeting and every contest is organized in such a way where there is structure to everything that we do. And that's really the value, because you bring that back into work. You bring that back into your personal life. You know, your kids want to go do something and you have to set up a schedule for the weekend to make sure, well, maybe not. But for some of us that like our kids, we structure everything so everything gets done and everybody's happy. So let me finish. So facilitation, motivation, we talk about mentoring and team building. And that's the 10 projects that you do in your Competent Leadership Manual. And these are just the first 2 manuals of a whole program. Some of you might be wondering, all right, so what? So I'm fairly comfortable speaking in front of people. I know what I'm doing. What can this do for me? Outside of these 2 manuals, there's advanced manuals that speak specifically on how to do certain things. So if you want to learn how to be a professional speaker, there's keynotes. You're looking at persuasive speeches. You're looking at structured speeches. There's a whole manual that's 5 speeches dedicated to technical speeches. And how do you make a technical speech interesting? That's just the start of the program. It took me 8 years to work through this. Actually, the first 2 manuals took me 5 years. And then I drank some of the Toastmaster Kool-Aid and said, you know what, I can probably finish up the rest in 3. And that's exactly what happened, because I saw that there was value. And I saw, when I go back to 2004, I saw the person that was sitting there in the chair saying, you know, what can I do to build on these skills that I don't have today that are going to take me to where I want to go in the future? So it's great. Toastmasters has done wonders for me. Can it do wonders for you? Does anybody? Yes? So what I want to do next is I'm going to bring up 2 people that have actually gone through the same program that I have. And instead of taking 7 years, they've done it in 2.5 to 3 years. 2 years? We'll bring up 2 people I'm going to interview real quick, and I'm going to show you the value of Toastmasters and the value that it's had for them. So my first guest, my first interviewee is Gagan. So Gagan, I'm going to bring you up. Can we just show Gagan some appreciation? Welcome, Gagan. All right, so Gagan, what do you do today?
Currently, I'm working in the process improvement group as a manager of process improvement. So,
terrific.
Yeah.
So when did
people improve their own lives, their own processes? I come to your group, ask you a couple of questions, and then I jot them down and say, you know what, here's a great idea. This is how we can improve.
Sorry, I want to give you a microphone. I don't know if the people in the back can hear you. Can the people in the back hear? I know Gagan's a very soft speaker.
Yes.
We've been working with him over the last couple of years to build that up. All right. So great. So what were you doing before you joined Toastmasters?
So before I joined Toastmasters, I was working as an analyst in the same group, in the process improvement group. But the thing was, a couple of things were happening then. First of all, English is not my first language, so speaking and communicating in English was kind of a challenge for me. I was good with the vocabulary and reading the stuff, but when it comes to expressing your thought, that was a challenge. Second, my personality is like that. I love to listen more than speak, and that was not, I don't consider myself as an introvert, but I would listen for hours and hours before I speak. And one of the things that John mentioned was, as a part of your competent leader, you also get to listen. But somehow, when it comes to the time to express my thought, I would just give it a pass. You know what? Okay, I have a good idea, but I will just give it a pass. So that's where I was struggling, and then I joined this program, and magic happened.
Actually, that's kind of how it happens. So Darren Hardy, he's the author of the compound effect, and he talks about taking small incremental steps to make massive improvement. And that's all it is, right? So you do the exercises, you do the program.
Yes.
And you know what? It doesn't happen overnight. It does take a little bit of time, but once you get through it, you get to the end. It's like an overnight success. People know about the overnight success syndrome. It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. So this is exactly it. So Gagan, what piece of advice would you give to the people in the audience today?
So I would say, if you haven't tried it, come over and, you can join as a guest, see how the meeting happens. And am I allowed to share my personal story?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
I would love that you do that.
So just want to add to this one, I was working with a program. One of the things is that you get a very positive feedback. There is a little bit of a takeaway that you have to take away. You have to work with it. And as John said, Compound Effect, great book by Darren Hardy. If you haven't read it, I would advise, highly recommended, small book. So you grow in a small incremental steps, and you have to stay with the program. And while John was area governor, he said, there is one of the clubs outside. Would you be kind enough to go there and, check yourself out as a guest speaker? So the event was that I would go and speak as a guest, and then the club, which is not my comfort zone, they will give me the feedback. So I went there, gave a speech. People liked my speech, gave me some positive feedback, and I happened to meet with someone. He likes my speech, and information got exchanged. We became LinkedIn friends. A year or so after, and this gentleman actually moved over to Humber College. And year or so after, he was looking for someone who can come in and teach. And guess what? I got a message on a LinkedIn that we are looking for someone. Can you come in and teach? Because he has already seen my skills that I can actually speak to an audience, big, large, small. Those inhibitions that I used to have earlier was gone. And he knew that I was qualified enough, and I'm working for the right company. So he invited me in, and the interview process was not like this. It was quite smooth, not like John's interview. I had the answers to my questions, and lo and behold, since 2013, I have been teaching at Humber College. Yeah, part-time.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Sure.
So I'm going to send you back to your seat. So let's show Gagan some appreciation.
Thank you.
It's okay, I got it. Yeah, good. So that's the best part of the program for me is you never know who's watching you, right? So, and I was actually talking to somebody the other day. It was Paul, and we talk about doing things where you start to grow and you develop, and it feels like nothing's happening for quite a while, right? So you're working hard, you're doing your thing, you're picking up new skills, a whole bunch of things that you're working on really diligently on, nothing changes for you. And then all of a sudden, you get a message on LinkedIn, hey, by the way, we're looking for a professor that can teach ITEL. Would you be interested in coming in? And that's exactly how Gagan's story went. It actually seems too easy almost, right? It's too easy. But what you don't realize is the work that's been done in the background. The 2.5 years of building up your communications and leadership skills. So my second interviewee is going to be Raminder. So if we could show Raminder some appreciation, please. Hi, Raminder. I'm going to give you the microphone.
Thank you.
How you doing today?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm doing well.
Good,
Thanks.
good. So, can you tell us what you do today?
I'm engagement manager and I manage the solution and I am the bridge between the business and IT. So my main role is getting the requirements from the business and translating into the IT world, and then the opposite way also, getting the requirements from the IT and sending back to the business. So whole this process needs lots of communication and the clearly defining them what business and IT are talking with each other.
Perfect. So, what were you doing before you joined Toastmasters?
I joined Toastmasters two years ago. I was an analyst, and I was senior analyst in the process team as a senior BA, and also for 10 years, I worked in HP as a programmer for the mainframe and AS400 system. And as you know, the programmers, they just put their head down and keep working on the computer. You don't need to communicate. For whole day, even I didn't need to speak a single line with someone because I was keep getting the tickets and solving the issues. So I found that in that 10 years, my communication became very less and less and less. So I finally decided to get out from that zone. I applied a job at Intrac. Probably you all know Intrac email money transfer. So I got a job there as an incident manager. So my job is whenever the email money transfer goes down, I have to go to all the banks and explain them why it went down. Because as an incident manager, they scrutinize you and they ask you why this happened, right? So all this was a communication. Every day I was on the phone with them explaining. So I found it was very challenging because my personality was not suited to that position. And because of the other several reasons for the commuting and all, so I thought maybe I go back to my BA position. So I applied at Rogers and came back as a senior analyst position. Then I met John and Gagan and some other members of Toastmaster who said, okay, why don't you try Toastmaster? So I joined the Toastmaster 2 years back. And since then, the communication is keep getting better and better. It's getting more confidence in me. So I'm finding that it's very helpful.
Perfect. So, if there was one piece of advice you could give to the audience today, what would that be?
Come and join the Toastmaster. I find it's a very good way to improve your communication, your self-confidence. And also, it is a fun environment. As John said, everyone clap at you. No one is looking at you that you said so, you said several times. At least you get the constructive feedback. It supports you. Then next time when you try the same speech or do the same role, you try to improve yourself. Personally, what I did, if I did any role, the next time also I try to do the same role so that I can see that what kind of improvement I have done in my role. So I found that very helpful. And also I just want to share one story about my job interview.
Sure, yeah.
When I did my job interview for this position, I found that we have one section in our Toastmaster. It's called Table Topics. I found that helped me a lot in responding to my interview questions because you are not prepared what they're going to ask in your interview, right? I had my interview with 2 senior managers, directors, they all looking at me, asking me questions right away. It was hard to follow who's asking me what, right? And the practice that I have done at Table Topics section of Toastmaster, just thinking right way. It's impromptu speaking that you think and speak right on your feet. And it's no short time for you to think about it. So you structure your answers this way. I found that was a very helpful section that improved me.
All right, terrific. Okay, so let's show Raminder some appreciation. Thank you, Raminder.
Thank you.
So before I wrap up, does anybody have any quick questions? No questions? Everybody knows everything? Okay, Gagan.
Can I add to something that you have said?
Sure.
So, a couple of things that I want to add into what John has already said. One is that what we have is a mentorship program. So when I came in and when I started speaking, my speeches were very rough, and I was reading from the notes as well. We do have a mentorship program where the senior people of the club, senior in terms of, not the gray hairs or the white hairs, but people who have spent time and learned, how to speak can actually help you progress and develop. Everybody has the idea of what a good speech is, but since these guys have done it, they kind of have a better idea of what kind of a feedback they can give it to you. so that your message is actually received very well by your audience. Second thing I want to add is we have the facility, I guess it's working right now, that we actually record your speeches and they are available to you free of cost. So all that you have to do is bring your own USB drive, and our AV guys have been very kind. So all the sessions, almost all the sessions, unless the AV people are busy, you can have a recording. You can watch yourself, how you have performed. You can see how the other people have performed. And that's a very good thing, that you can take that piece of recording and watch it at your own leisure, and you can see how you were moved, how you were moving your gestures, or how you were changing your voice depending upon the kind of the speech that you're doing, right? So it's not only the feedback that you receive from the club or from your official person, you get an opportunity to reflect upon how you have performed at your own leisure. So those are the things that I just wanted to add to what John has already said.
Perfect. Thank you, Gagan. Yeah, I forget about the mentoring program. Well, you guys could be Toastmasters now. You already got the clap down. No, but it's true. We do have a mentoring program that's people helping people, and that's what it's all about. So the community of Toastmasters, the whole program of Toastmasters is helping people develop. And you do that through mentorship. You do that through people in your club. And actually, it's the part I enjoy the most. And actually, there's one thing I did forget to mention. You get to network with everybody in the organization that's interested in public speaking. So people who come out, so I have the honor of working or being in a club where I have people from RBS, the Rogers Business Solution team. I got people from architecture. I got people from development and programming. I've got people from, you name it, any part of the organization that can seem off limits sometimes because you don't work with them on a day-to-day. They're in the club with you, and you get to interact with them. And you get to foster those relationships a little bit better. And we talk about how do we do that? ShareSpace kind of addresses some of that, because now you get to sit anywhere you want, which is, depending on who you are, and may not be great, but I think it's awesome, because now you get to be close to everybody. So, one more question, anybody? I'm going to give this one to Sonu. A lot of homework? So it depends, right? It comes down to how much effort you get, what you put in. So the more you put in, the more you get out. It's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym once a week, are you going to get fit? Maybe. Not. But if you go to the gym 3-4 times a week, your chances of improving are going to be better. So it's the same. Depending on the projects, ideally you want to do on a month-to-month. So you're doing a new project every month. So you're building on the skills that you did the month before, and you're incorporating the feedback that you received. And that's where you're going to see the most amount of growth. Sorry, Daisy. Okay.
Can you hear me there? Okay. So I have been, thank you. I've been a member of this club since Nortel. And you would probably be wondering, well, why am I sticking around? But it's because of the value that I've been getting from being a member of Toastmasters. It does help you in your communication skills, and it does build your leadership skills. So what John and Gagan and Raminda have all said, it's true. You can advance your career the cheap way, actually, because membership, I mean, how much you pay for the year is peanuts when compared to the value that you get out of Toastmasters. Thanks, John.
All right, thank you. That's true, it is peanuts. And our club isn't sponsored by the company. Everybody that's in the club today pays their own way. Fortunately, it's not a very big fee. All we're covering is the Toastmaster fees that go back to Toastmasters International. But it's a very small fee for getting practice time. So you can actually take a presentation that you need to deliver. You can make that one of your projects in your book and deliver it to an audience for the first time. So when you show up in front of your managers, directors, VPs, it's not brand new. You've actually had a test run. You've gotten some feedback. So when you're in front of them, you're delivering a completely different type of presentation. So thank you, Daisy. One more question, and I got to start wrapping up.
All your activities, I think, during work.
So the majority of our activities do happen. So our meetings are every Tuesday at noon. So this is the time slot that we're in. There are other activities that are outside of our club, so an area contest. So there's contests twice a year. when you win the contest internally, actually you compete against your fellow speakers to see who's the best of the best, and they move on to the area. From the area, division, and so forth and so forth. So there are some of those activities, and I found you get a lot of growth from participating in that, because that's where you start to stretch. You know, they talk about living inside of a box, and how do you break out of your box? Is you got to become uncomfortable sometimes to make that happen. Any other questions? I guess we're good. So I'm gonna wrap up. So I just want to leave you with this thought: the what if. What if? So what if you take a membership form and you walk back to your desk, and you say to yourself, hey, within a week, you know what, I'll get to this next week, I'll fill it out, and then I'll go check out a meeting. So a month passes by, you're now in the heart of share space, you're moving around, you got to get rid of stuff, and your papers get shuffled and they get lost. A month leads into 6 months, 6 months into a year, and you realize a whole year's gone by and nothing's happened. And you're back in this room and you're saying, you know what, this Toastmasters thing seems pretty good, but I haven't really done anything with it. And that's okay. You know what, not everybody wants to move forward too quickly anyways. But let's just say we take it the other way. You take a form, you fill it out. Before you leave the room, you're actually handing it to one of the executive members. And you say, hey, I'm going to be there next week for a meeting. And maybe a week after that, I'm going to participate in one of the roles. And then, 1 month turns into 6 months and into a year. You've gone through your manuals. You've done your CCs, your competent communicator projects. You've done your competent leadership projects. And within a year, maybe there's an opportunity that comes up. And instead of getting ready for that opportunity when it happens, you're already ready. They say opportunity happens, or opportunity knocks, and you're there to answer the door. That's exactly what it is. It's all that preparation. It's all the legwork that you don't see behind you that gets you to that point. There's a big push inside the organization to take control of your own career, and this is one of the ways you do it. And it's a step-by-step program. Thank you for your time today. I'm going to turn it back to Mahiza.
Thank you very much, John, for a very inspiring speech, and I thank everybody for making the time to come to our open house. So if you have any questions or you need to pick up a pamphlet if you haven't already, I'm going to ask my executive committee to stand up. You can reach any one of them or myself, and if you have any questions, we are free to answer. Thank you. We call the meeting adjourned.